There is a journey that most of us take, a journey to find that person who will be the love of my life, the one who will be my soulmate, that man or woman whom I can trust with all of my life, that special person who, in a sense, completes me. It is, in the words of Shakespeare, a high hope for a low heaven. Unfortunately, our lives are too often littered with broken hearts, dashed dreams, and the detritus of lost love. The high hope for a low heaven becomes a low hope in a high hell. Too often we have left the search to a game of chance. We have gambled and lost. In this video, I'm going to show you how an approach that synthesizes decades of scientific research conducted around the world with common sense can give you a realistic hope of true love. But before I begin talking about this approach, I want to encourage you not to quit on love. Have you failed at love? Most of us have. I certainly have. But I say to you, you can either remain a failure or learn to be a better lover. Let's begin with an overview of the approach, which I call the pyramid model, and then we'll get into specifics. There are three general principles that underlie this model. First, the pool of eligibles, that is, the potential mates, must be narrowed down by ascending a series of increasingly smaller, yet more important levels. Think of it like climbing a pyramid. Second, at each level, there is a challenge and an action that is required to meet that challenge. Successfully meeting that challenge will enable you to move on to the next level. Third, there's a general rule running through a good part of this model, which I call like likes like. Simply put, you are more likely to have a greater degree of match success with people who are similar to you as opposed to people who are dissimilar to you. We know in research that similarity tends to create liking and dissimilarity tends to create dislike. Unfortunately, dissimilarity creates greater dislike than similarity creates liking. So this is very important to get. Many times in the early part of a relationship, people gloss over the differences between them. And over time, these differences become more and more important and may fray the fabric of love. Now, these are just general principles, particularly in regard to similarity. There are always exceptions to the rule. However, exceptions to the rule do not make the rule. With that said, let's get into the specifics of this model and find that love of your life. The ground floor of our approach is the pool of eligibles. Historically, this has been a rather small pool limited by geographic restrictions. But in this day and age of the internet and social media, it's more like an ocean of eligibles. Thus, our task is to narrow down, effectively and efficiently, this large group of people into the best possible matches. And that's what the pyramid model is designed to do. So let's begin with the first level of the pyramid model, which I call interaction frequency. You're most likely to develop relationships with people that you interact with frequently. Moreover, research has found that the higher the degree of interaction frequency, the greater the degree of liking. Thus, our task here is to find the right places that have the right people that we can interact with them frequently. All too often, people go to the wrong places and end up with the wrong people. The next level is physical attractiveness. Research conducted around the world has identified what is called the matching phenomenon, which means this: people of similar physical attractiveness tend to pair up together. Those people who are strikingly attractive pair up with strikingly attractive people. Those people of moderate attraction tend to pair up with people of moderate attraction. And those people who are not really that attractive tend to pair up with people who are not really that attractive. Now, there's two interesting things about this phenomenon. First off, we know that males tend to be the initiators of romantic relationships. However, research with speed dating has revealed that it's actually females who play the crucial role in this matching phenomenon. You see, what males do is they see women who are physically attractive and they go, check, I'll go out on a date with her. But females take a different approach. They estimate their own physical attractiveness and then they look for males who are, in a sense, in their league of similar physical attractiveness. There is an exception to this rule, which is that women who are very attractive may end up with a male who is not so attractive if he is wealthy and has high socioeconomic status. It's a transaction that some psychobiologists have identified as males seek out youth and beauty in females, whereas females seek out resources and maturity in males. So now we have people who are of similar physical attractiveness. This brings us to our third level, which is social background. And the rule here is just the same as with physical attractiveness. People of similar social backgrounds tend to pair up together. Relationships between people of high socioeconomic status and low socioeconomic status tend to be rare and exceptions to the rule. Now, sometimes this happens. A number of years ago, I was watching a documentary on the Romanovs. And there was a Romanov, I believe it was a prince. And they were looking for the perfect wife for him, so they sought out women of noble birth and of great physical attractiveness, and they had these beauty contests throughout the realm, and eventually brought several of them into this Romanov prince, I believe, and they asked him to make a choice. And then he made a choice, and the room was aghast, because he actually picked the attendant of one of these women. Oh my gosh. Yes. Now, interestingly enough, it appears that they actually had a fantastic marriage. So there are exceptions to the rule. Again, exceptions to the rule don't make the rule. Now, what about my wife and I? We come from very different backgrounds. And if you watch some of our other videos, you can learn about many of these different contrasts between us. However, there are some similarities there. We both came from kind of working class to eventually middle class backgrounds. We both were the first person in our family to get a college degree, and we both ended up with professional careers. And interestingly enough, my mother grew up in a way quite similar to Maria, my wife. Now, here's the key factor here. It's not that you have to have exactly the same social backgrounds. The key is you've got to find a common ground in your backgrounds. So everything doesn't have to be the same, but there has to be something that you can both stand on. So now we have people with similar social backgrounds, a common ground that they can stand on. And now we're going to move to the fourth level of this model, which is beliefs and values. This gets into the heart of who you are, your faith, your ideology, your convictions, what you hold dear and near to you. Now, you don't have to be a clone with the other person, but what you do need is this. Whatever is most important to you, you must have in common with that other person. For me, I am a Christian, and that is what is most important to me. If I was to marry a non-Christian, it's really tantamount to putting a person before God. Whatever it is that you have that is most important to you, it is most important to share that with someone special. And so far, in these previous 3 levels, similarity has been the key. But now we move on to a couple of levels which go beyond just similarity. And level 5 is what I call compatibility. Now, you may be of similar physical attractiveness, a similar social background, you may have similar values and beliefs, but you may not be a good match for that person. And the reason why is you and that other person just don't fit together well. The gears don't mesh together well. A person who has a dominant personality matches up with another person who has a dominant personality, and they clash. They don't work together. They clash. It's like on a basketball team. You may have one person who is a terrific point guard and another person on the team who is also a terrific point guard. But you can't play them both on the court at the same time because they both need the ball to be most effective. And so when it comes to compatibility, it's how well do people fit together. We all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. Idealistically, where I am weak, my spouse is strong. And where he or she is weak, I am strong. Thus, the two becomes one because they become better than each individual alone. This brings us to the 6th level of our model, which is commitment. I define commitment as how much you're willing to give up to remain a part of a relationship. Similarity and compatibility may bring people together, but it is only commitment that keeps people together. Many people in this day and age choose to live together before they get married. They kind of want to see how things are going to work out. I'm going to tell you 3 reasons why this is not an approach that is likely to lead to true, genuine, lasting love. Number 1, people who are low in the desire for commitment and low in the need for commitment, they may live with you, but they probably don't want to marry you. You see, people who are low in the need and desire for commitment, they may give you loving moments, but they will be unable, perhaps unwilling, to give you lasting love. Number 2, there is an attachment style that's called avoidant attachment. Attachment I define as the bond that ties one to another across time and space. People who have an avoidant attachment style, surprise, avoid attachment. They really don't want to have a close, intimate relationship with the other person. They tend to have a series of relationships in their lives. And the 3rd reason is this. When 2 people live together, their attitudes toward marriage tend to erode. They begin to think of marriage as just a piece of paper. After all, we're living together. What more do we need? What more do you need? What you need is that specialness and that sacredness of marriage. That's what more you need. So now we have people who are committed to each other, who believe in the specialness and the sacredness of marriage, and now they have ascended to the capstone, which I call the unity of true love, which is epitomized in a marriage that never ends. My hope and prayer for you is that God leads you to that person who will be the love of your life. That God helps you to be that kind of a person who can be the love of someone else's life. That indeed heaven and earth will come together in your love, a love that has no end and continues throughout all of eternity.